I have a
So
feeling,
little time for us. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, 1 hour just is never enough for you and I to keep talking, and we can do this all day. I mean, hell, I don't know about you, but I've finally gotten used to hearing myself on these things, so it doesn't bother me no more. But how many times have you talked to podcasters or wannabe podcasters or soon to be podcasters? And I don't want to say wannabe podcasters in a bad way, but how many times have you talked to them and the first thing that they say, well, I really don't like the sound of my own voice?
Oh, like all the time. Like all the time. I did. Me too at the beginning.
I've never really not, I guess, I don't know. It never really bothered me. It was like one of those, I remember when I was like 5 years old and my mom had one of those old tape cassette recorders. You remember it looked like it was about 8 inches wide, 10 inches long. And then you had that little tiny microphone with the real skinny wire and you talk into it. Remember
oh,
those?
yeah. I remember. Yeah, they were so tiny.
Yeah, the old little dictaphone microphones.
Yeah.
I remember my mother used to record us back and we'd sing songs. We would just tell daddy what we were doing and stuff like that. I mean, that was, and I got to thinking about it when you said something about International Podcast Day. And then after doing all the research that I've done over the past couple years on podcasting, it kind of made me start thinking about that. And I thought that would be one hell of a way to start off a show. So I contacted her and I asked her, I said, do you still have any of those old tape cassettes that you used to record us kids on when we're like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old? And she says, no, I never kept them. In fact, we taped over most of all of them just because there was just something that was fun to do. It kept you kids quiet. Well, not quiet, but it kept us entertained anyways.
Ah, that's too bad. Wouldn't that be awesome? Because really, you could go back to that time when you had a tape player and say that's when podcasting started. I mean, really, that's what it is.
And I would have verifiable proof that in 1979 I was talking to somebody. I don't know who it was, but somebody I was doing. So I think I might have done like a rendition of like Twinkle Twinkle or something, or maybe ABCs. Who knows? I mean, in 79, I was 4 years old. It could have been something. It probably wasn't anything more than that, but whatever.
Yeah.
We have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
So tonight on the show, that's one of the topics of our discussion. We are going to be talking about the International Podcast Day, September 30th, tomorrow. But since neither one of us actually want to get up early enough in the morning to, do a show on Podcast Day, we're going to do it tonight.
Yes. But aren't you doing your roundtable tomorrow?
Which roundtable? No, I'm not doing anything. No.
Oh, I thought you. Oh, okay.
We were going to do it tomorrow. Unfortunately, because of events that have happened recently, i.e. my exodus from the PDC. That kind of put the kibosh on a lot of that. So
yeah. Well, there's still a lot of us good people left.
Well, of course there are. And maybe tomorrow night, if there are people available and willing to, hang out for about a better part of an hour or so, maybe we'll put something out there. But as of right now, don't really have anything planned per se.
So if anybody, watching this, watching the replay, I think they actually started tonight. So if you've been thinking about starting a podcast, you want to know a little bit about it, sort of get into the world, because it is an environment. It is a culture. That's the word I wanted, culture. Podcasting, it is a culture. Fantastic people. It is a whole other world. And if it's something that you're interested in, just sort of getting your feel for the people in it and different things that you can do. If you're on Facebook, you can search for International Podcast Day. They've been posting stuff. I actually think they started tonight. They're doing a 30-hour straight live stream, and they'll be having different guests. So if you want to go see what it's like and maybe learn a little bit something, go check it out and go like their page. But, your best resource is CJ and I, because we're just going to give it to you straight, and we're going to tell you what it's like, and we're going to share our experiences and what's worked and what hasn't. And we're great with coming up with ideas and resources. So we know people.
Yeah, we know people who know people. But what's funny is we talk about this quite a bit, between you and I and other podcasters and stuff like that. There are so many ups and downs, and we are what, if you look at the timeline that where they actually called it podcasting, starting in 2004, and we'll get into why I, don't really care for that timestamp. But anyways, if you get into that, we've been doing this now for 13 years, and in 13 years, we are still in the infancy of this thing called podcasting. We haven't even scratched the surface, and there are some amazing people out there putting their words out there. And last I had heard, I think the numbers were like almost up to 800,000 people who are either actively podcasting or who have put a podcast out. Now, if they've maintained,
I don't think it's 800,000.
Well, that's at the last numbers I had seen.
Really?
Where we were at. And here's the thing. That could be anything from, and like I said, active or have done. So it could be anything from someone maybe done 1 or 2 episodes, thought it would be something cool, but then it kind of petered out, didn't go nowhere. And that's, it's still a podcast. It was still, but it didn't maintain an actual schedule. Now I know of podcasts guys that are in the industry who are solid in the industry, but they still only do a podcast maybe once every 3 or 4 months. Sometimes they only release 1 or 2 per year. And it would surprise you to find out who some of these guys are.
Yeah, I want to know. Yeah, who's that?
Okay, so it went back a while ago. I started this podcast called the Podcasters Guild Podcast, where I literally interviewed amazing podcasters, people that have been around, kind of started the industry, kind of helped grow the industry. So one of my guests was none other than the Dave Jackson. And he hates it, by the way. He hates it when people call him the Dave Jackson. But when it comes to people who I consider godfathers in our industry, people who have taught literally thousands of people how to podcast, I'm going to call him the Dave Jackson. Anyways, he told me he had this podcast that he started off a while back. He's a music lover, and he did a show based around music and stuff like that. And what he wanted is he wanted people to be able to go back to work, talk about it in the office, that type of deal. Well, over the years, it just kind of fell off, and it kind of pod faded, if you will, to use the podcast language that people have created. And he still brings it out every once in a while when he feels the itch to play some music or just kind of talk about music or whatever. He'll still bring it out. And I think the last time he said I think he just did one like a couple of months ago. He announced that he was going to be bringing that back. So I haven't seen it yet, but who knows? But
see, he can do that. Not everybody can do that. Like, he has a name for himself, though. Like, he's an established podcaster. Right. So he could do that, but just regular folk couldn't do that, because the one thing that you need if you're going to get into podcasting is consistency, because it takes time to build an audience, and consistency is the number one thing. If you're going to do it once in a while, it's not enough. So he can do that.
Yeah, well,
or any of the bigger other ones that are really known.
And the fact of the matter is, it doesn't actually take that long to build up a following. No. I've been doing this consistently for about 2 years, since 2014, so 3 years now. And I have bounced from shows to shows to shows, and I've even guested on other people's shows and stuff like that. And by no means am I saying that I've got a following like a Dave Jackson or any of the top tier, the top 10%. I don't have that following. but I have a large enough following where they come to the shows that I am on.
Mm-hmm.
You have the same thing. You have that same type of following. And it's just from getting familiar. People start becoming more and more familiar with you. They hear you more often. You're consistent, like you said, with your content. And that following will start to build. And it doesn't really take all that long.
No. And a following that doesn't have to be huge. I see something that's really talked about. And unfortunately, people think, you have to have numbers in the thousands, and you don't really. You just need to have engaged people. You have to have people that, will come back more than once, that are affected by what you say, that it makes a difference. It doesn't have to be huge. But unfortunately, if you're going to look for sponsors, say, as an example, they don't know the culture. They don't know people's audiences. They don't know yours. They don't know mine. They don't know ours. They're just going to simply look at numbers. But I mean, and I've moved around a lot too. When I started, I started on Blog Talk Radio because I didn't know of anything else. There were no courses. There was nothing out there about teaching people about podcasting or anything like that. There was no podcasting coaches. There wasn't anything like there was. And I didn't know of anything. I didn't even know of podcasting. Like I didn't. And I have moved around too. And, I've gained some and I've lost some along the way. But yeah, but I consistently did it. And I made it easy. I think that's the second thing. First is consistency. The second is make it easy for people to follow you. I cannot tell you. I'm sure you see it. I want to know what you think. You see people post about their show, and a lot of times I've seen people, hey, my show is whatever a day, but there's no link to find it, or there's no links, or they only provide one link, and usually it's always iTunes, and I freaking hate iTunes with a passion. I will not. If someone gives me an iTunes link, I will not go to your show. I just won't. I won't go. I won't listen. I hate iTunes. It's clunky. It's not user-friendly. It's really archaic. But people don't make it easy. They don't put a bunch of links out there, and they don't make it easy for people to engage, because a lot of people don't understand. I still have people saying, well, what's a podcast? I had this discussion on my timeline earlier this week. Someone messaged me. No, they messaged me, and they said something about, oh, well, what's a podcast? And for us, it's hard to believe that there's people that still don't know what a podcast is, but there is people that don't know. And so, you have to constantly put it out there. And you're right. We are just at the beginning. There's just so much more because we see platforms evolving. It is changing, but consistency and make it easy for people. I mean, that's the one thing in the training that I've done when I had my own network and I was owning the radio station. It was something I had to consistently tell hosts. Make it easy for people. Make it easy for people to listen.
Here's one of the things that I think a lot of podcasters get wrong. And it's not because they're not trying. It's not because they just don't know what they don't know is really what it boils down to. And we want to be able to put our voices out there. We want people to understand what we're saying. We want people to listen, but it's like they want to jump ahead of the cart. It's like, hey, they come into this literally believing that they're going to make a full-time income just podcasting. And that seems to be the biggest mistake that I see a lot of podcasters make when they first jump into it. And because they don't start seeing money right away, then it becomes something of, it's like, oh, now it's a burden. They really don't want to continue doing this podcast thing because it's not working the way they thought it would work. And I think a lot of people, they have a really poor expectations because they see guys like John Lee Dumas out there and Pat Flynn and Lewis Howes and people like that who are crushing it and who are making a ton of money off of podcasting. Now, mind you, I didn't say from podcast itself? No, but off of podcasting, whether they have a course leads from it and they use the podcast as a marketing vehicle, that is typically the route that people take when they're making money off their podcast.
Yeah, that's the thing. You said it perfectly. Not directly, because I get that question a lot from people. Well, can I make money having a podcast? Not directly. It's a vehicle. It's like when you post, it's like having a website. It's like writing content. It's like doing an ad. It's just another means for you to be able to get the word out and share who you are and share your voice. And there's people that are diehards. I couldn't imagine not doing it. And then there's people that are like, oh, well, that was fun. I think I'll do something else. You either have it in your blood or you don't. But I like that you said that. But yes, that is, people are like, after 6 months, they're like, how come I don't have like an audience of, like, I've hit a brick wall. I don't have an audience of 10,000 people, or I'm not making a ton of money from it. People, it's so great to have information and resources and people that can help you that have been there before. But you know what I'm seeing? Here's an example. There's a podcasters group that I'm in. It's just for women because they really want to promote the podcasting of women, that women don't have enough of a voice in the podcasting world. But here's an example of what I'm seeing, how the information overload then paralyzes people. Someone asked a question in this group saying, help, I don't know what to do. I did an interview with a guest. We really lightly edit. We might take out the odd here and there. We provide questions ahead of time so that guests aren't caught off guard. But I got a message back from my guest saying that she didn't like it. She sounded rude and something else. So I don't know what to do. So I commented on this post saying, well, why don't you ask what she feels about, like, why she feels that way? Because there was no clarification. I said, why don't you just ask her what makes her feel like, what about it? And she said, so then she commented back to me saying, well, it doesn't bother me anything, but I'm just really curious. Again, there's only one way to satisfy that curiosity. Ask her what about the editing of that episode makes her feel like she looks bad or sounds bad and rude and unflattering. That was the word. People get so paralyzed, they just they don't know what to do. It's a very simple thing. Email back and say, I'm very sorry you feel that way. Like, what about it makes you feel like it's unflattering? Like, help me out. Like, I don't understand. And the comments went on. I think there ended up being 20 comments. Do we need 20 comments on a question like that? If you're dying to know why she felt that way, ask her.
I've had one guest in over 100 shows on Raw and Real. I had one guest ask me not to air their interview. And that was because, really? Right, yeah.
I've never had that in 8 years. I've never had a guest do that.
And here's the reason. When I did the interview went really well. And in fact, he is going to come on the show again, and we're going to redo the interview. However, here's the reason why he decided he didn't want that interview aired. At that time, I was batching all my podcasts, and so I was doing, 30 podcasts in a month. I mean, it was like 5 per day, just continuously, just throwing all this content up. And he come back at me. He says, hey, when are we going to put that episode up? I said, well, I think I have it scheduled. It was like 2 or 3 weeks out or something like that. He goes, well, I'm going to need to have you take it down. The information isn't relevant anymore. I said, oh, well, you didn't inform me that this was kind of something that needed to be out right away. Otherwise, do you want me to move it up? I can move some stuff around. He goes, no, I'm kind of scrapping that project. I kind of want to go a different direction. And at this time, I thought, well, okay, that's fine, no problem. I took it out, and we started talking and getting things going and stuff like that. And he handed me this other course. He's like, here, because you were so nice and you can that other project, I'm going to give you my new course for free. Try it out, talk about it, tell people what you think. And I went through the course. I absolutely loved it. And here's the crazy thing about it. I had him scheduled to do another interview for that course. He says, no. I'm going to scrap it. I'm not going to follow through with that one. I said, but why not? This course was absolutely amazing. He goes, well, because I gave it to 100 people and you were the only person that saw any results. I said, well, isn't that enough? Isn't it just one person having results from your program? Isn't that enough to say, hey, it can help somebody else? He goes, no, not really.
Not out of 100 people, no.
So he scrapped it. He scrapped that one too. So I've been constantly on this guy. Well, now he's developed a new product. I know. He's developed a new product, which I get to beta test again. But this one, I have a feeling this one here is going to stick. And the reason why is because it's a tool for podcasters. And yes, this guy is a podcaster. He's got probably one of the most amazing. If you look at his shows, the people he's had on his shows, absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. The guy does not have his show is a winner all the way around. But anyways, that's all I'm going to say.
To know who the frick that is.
Well, you'll have to listen to Ron Real to find out who that is, because the story will be retold on that show. Oh, did you see what I just did? Did you see what I just did? That's the other reason why podcasters fail to capture an audience. You got that look on your face. It's called promotion. Okay. We're talking promotion. And when you break down the word promotion, it's not about what you do after the show, because that is the habit of podcasting. You put an episode out, you share it with all your friends, you tell the people that you interviewed, hey, I just put out your episode. Please go and share this with your followers. That has been the model, the standard model of podcast promotion for the last 13 years.
Because it's canned. That's the thing. It's canned. And I think that's why we can draw from, that's why I like radio, live radio. And about half my time, that's what I've done is live radio. I love live radio for the story you just told about, you could be talking about something and not, I don't mind a 3-week window in releasing a podcast. Some of them go way longer than that because people record so many, and that's their schedule, or however they release. Some people will release 2 a week or whatever that is. That's always been a little bit of my about podcasting is by the time it comes out, it's like, well, I'm not freaking excited anymore. I was excited at the time. I loved it at the time. And now I don't remember what I said. I don't remember what I talked about. And now I have to be excited to promote this. Or, something could have changed. And that's happened to me the odd time. That it's not happening anymore. I did one actually. And when I was a co-owner of the radio station, well, in that time, by the time I did the interview and by the time it was released, I wasn't part of that anymore.
That was our show.
So, that's one thing I liked about radio is radio will always talk about what's coming up. There's no rule that podcasting can't do the same thing.
No.
And I like radio because you're doing things right there in the moment. If you're promoting something, it's in the moment. It's happening now. The excitement, but for some people that it's too nerve-wracking for some people, because I've asked some podcasters, you were in radio, now you podcast. Why? Why did you change? And they said, it was too stressful for me doing live radio. See, for me, I thrived on that. Thrived on that. I'm going to go live in 2 minutes and my producer's going, I can't get a hold of your guest. What do you want to do? You've got 2 minutes to figure out what are you going to do. And I used to tell my hosts, have something in your back pocket. have someone you can either call up like right now to be a guest right away, and it develops your hosting skills that all of a sudden you can switch your guest, or you have something that you can share right away. So I think that radio and podcasting is coming together. They're mingling a little bit more, and they're learning that they can learn some things from each other. And that is awesome. That example you gave, you can promo upcoming episodes, and you rarely see anybody do that, and you are a master at it.
Well, I learned it from film, actually. And I tell people this all the time when they ask me, how did you grow your following? I said, it's think of it like a blockbuster release. You're going to release this episode, or maybe you're just launching your show. Start creating a buzz. Start, telling people ahead of time, create a video trailer, do whatever you got to do. One of the guys that I look at now who has mastered this, absolutely taken this concept and just ran with it, is Drew Carson with everything he does.
Yeah.
If you pay attention, he's releasing a short 1 to 1.5 minute video about 3 or 4 days before the show airs, telling them who's going to be on the show, what they're going to be talking about. He creates that video trailer before every show, and he is absolutely killing it by doing that. And you're still going to have those people who kind of like draw back, like, well, I don't have video editing skills. And you and I, we both loved using Clamor back in the when Clamor was still going strong. And now, of course, we've switched over to Pippa, and Pippa's playing around with something that's similar. But that was one of the things that I absolutely loved. I could record an audio sting. And when I say an audio sting, that just means that it's just a little soundbite of something that I can throw out there to kind of get people interested in and starting to hear what it is that the next show is going to be about. It's kind of like that video trailer. It's an audio trailer basically for your show. So
yeah. Well, there's the Electric Radio Show does that too. I love their little trailers that they do. They do a video trailer, and I like watching them because they're really entertaining. They're really good at that too. I think podcasters treat each individual episode like they're a separate island. There's no reason why you can't say who's coming up on a future episode. Absolutely. But now there's Wave. So, it's great to have those little snippets. But Clamor, if anybody used Clamor, now there's Wave, WAVVE, that you can grab a snippet. But if you are in Pippa, if you are looking for another podcasting platform, try pippa.io. We've switched to that. It's great. I love the way they're set up. And yeah, they have that snippet tool that you can snip and transcription at no extra cost. And they're going to be coming out with a monetization option. So, it is still evolving. There are things that podcasters still want, and things are changing, and companies are acquiring other things, because Blog Talk and what's that other one that merged? Spreaker.
Spreaker. Yeah, that's right. Spreaker.
Yeah. So it's always changing. It's not.
Well, and then you
look
at the things that what podcasters have done. We're still in that creation mode. There's so much that can be done. Like I said, my friend is creating a tool for podcasters to not only just schedule guests, but to help the guests literally have canned promos for them. So they don't have to go out and set up their own promo. All they got to do is copy paste or just push the send button, and it just goes out to all their followers like that. So he's making this tool that's going to be super easy to promote your guest, to schedule guests, and to help them promote as well. So it's one of those. We're at a time right now where tools are coming out of everywhere, and there's still some of us who are using those hacks. Like when Clamor went away and we were kind of in between, not being able to do a lot of things. I know of a lot of people who would just record their snippet on Audacity or GarageBand or whatever it was, and then they would put it into their Google Drive, and then just share a link to their Google Drive. And people were able to click on that and hear the same thing that they would have on Clamor.
Yeah.
So there's so many hacks. There's so many different ways to get around those kind of things. And these are the things that, people are really paying attention to when I say people, I'm talking about the people at Libsyn, the people at Podbean, Pippa, all these different hosting sites, all these CEOs, they're constantly looking for that next talent to be able to bring on so they can capture that tool to be able to release it on their hosting sites.
Yeah.
And, you know, those are huge things. And we're, like I said, we're still in the infant stage of podcasting, realistically.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that it's a great thing to try out. I encourage everybody to, you know what, try it. And it doesn't have to be difficult. It doesn't have to be intimidating. It could be so easy. You know, there's everything from the really basic to like these unbelievably produced episodes. And, you know, it doesn't have to be. It can be so simple. So, you know, anybody, if you're watching this, like get in touch with either of us and we'll help you out. Like we'll answer any questions you have. Well, because there's just so many things that, and so many things I think too, that if you do podcast, and there's so many things that I've shared with people that have podcasted for 2-3 years and they're like, wow, I never knew that.
That's, you know, we are constantly learning. We're constantly evolving. I learn from different people all the time.
Yeah.
Just because I've been doing this a while now, it doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, I know everything about it. I love learning new things. In fact, I learned things from people that have only been podcasting for a couple of months. You know, they get into it. Maybe they catch some information from somebody else. And then, of course, there's always those times where we just forget. We get lazy. We get a little bit complacent. We forget those little tips and tricks and stuff like that over time. And then remind us of that, like Tim Wolberg. Guy is absolutely amazing. Remind us, you know, certain things like, you know, how your posture, how important is your posture when you're actually speaking into a microphone.
Yes. I got to say, he's probably, well, other than you, he's probably the only other podcaster that I have learned so much from. I love listening. So if you're a podcaster and you want to get some great tips, he's got a podcast. They're like 5 minutes, 10 max, and it's called Just the Tip. And he gives you a tip in each podcast. And I learned great things from him. And yeah, I got to say, he's probably one that is really, I mean, I pick up other things from other people too, but he's got like very specific tips on podcasting and things that you can do. And yeah.
You know, and the nice thing about Tim is he's such an amazing guy. And
he's so nice.
You know, and he's one of those people that we talked about that are bridging the gap between radio and podcasting. He literally, I mean, he was in radio for years and years and years. He
still is, I think.
And still, well, he teaches it now. He teaches broadcast journalism.
That's right. But I think he is still with CBC in Kelowna, which is my province in Canada.
I didn't know that, but that's on me. But yeah, I mean, the guy, he is one of those guys that are bridging that gap and really bringing the professionalism of podcasting to that next level. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. He's a great guy. Great guy. So but go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I just wanted to throw out a few facts because I kind of alluded to this at the beginning of the show. And here's the things that I love to disagree with. Okay. So the beginning of podcasting. Okay. So right now I'm on the internationalpodcastday.com podcasting history page. And it says, in the beginning, Adam Curry and Dave Weiner are credited with the invention of podcasting. Who exactly did what is up for dispute. But in the end, these are the two guys who got it rolling. With all due respect, Adam Curry and Dave Weiner, no.
That's all that you need to say.
No. Neither one of you invented podcasting. I'll just say it like that. Audio blogging had been around a lot longer. In fact, if it wouldn't have been for RCS, the radio communication systems that were put in place, there would be no such thing as radio computing services. And I'll explain what that is in a second. But if it wasn't for that, there would be no such thing as RSS, which is what made, sharing and audio or automatically updating blogs and stuff like that possible. Podcasting started in the blogging world. Bloggers started podcasting. What had happened was somebody said, you know what? I can't type today. And they were using Dragon. And then they came up with this audio file. And they posted the audio file as their blog. And that is, in effect, the first podcast. Because that is what a podcast is an audio blog. It's just been renamed. And somebody put their name on it and said, hey, look what we invented. No.
Yeah.
No. Sorry, guys. You didn't invent.
Is there a list of podcasts on that website? Because in case anybody's watching and they want to get into and they're looking for a certain type, they can go to that website, internationalpodcastday.com. And
let's see. Well, not really.
But you can always just Google whatever you're interested in and plus podcast. There's a podcast on everything. There's knitting podcasts. I mean, I don't know how exciting that would be, but they some of them have big audiences. So whatever you're interested in, and just put that plus podcast in Google and you will find it. I encourage you. So tomorrow, International Podcast Day, there's so many of us that are like promoting this unbelievably rich, diverse platform and educating people on it. So if you're looking for podcasts, do it. I encourage you. Listen to one. I challenge you.
Do you know what one of the longest running podcasts are in history right now? And it's still today?
What?
Never guessed. It is what's it called? The leader of Canada. What's not like the president, but what's the
Prime Minister.
Yeah. The Prime Minister, there's still a podcast today that the Prime Minister of Canada still puts out. It has been it's been going on since like 2007 or 2006 or 2007. I'm sorry, no, 2005. So since 2005, the Prime Minister of Canada they've been putting out a podcast ever since then. Crazy, isn't it?
Wow. I knew he had one. I didn't know it was still going. Wow.
In fact, it was the Prime Minister of Canada who inspired George Bush let me see what year.
The current Prime Minister of Canada?
It's called the Prime Minister's Moment or something like that. It's all of the prime ministers. They've just continued on with that podcast.
Okay. Because he's just been the prime minister for, coming up on 2 years now in November.
Right. But it's been the same one. Now, George W. Bush took a page out of the prime minister's playbook, and he put out the presidential podcast from 2005 to 2007.
Wow. Good for him.
All thanks to the
Canada.
So there you go. There's a little bit of trivia for you.
That's pretty cool. Pretty cool. Cool. I like that. Well, who knew we could talk about podcasting for so long?
Yeah. Well, I guess it's one of those things. When you're passionate about something, you can go on and on.
I know. But what I do want to say that if you are, for those watching, listening to this, over at milehighradio.com, we have 6 new podcasts that are premiering, launching, debuting, whatever the hell you want to call it, tomorrow, starting at 9 a.m. Pacific. 6 new great shows. If you've never listened to a podcast, all very diverse in topics, go to milehighradio.com and listen. You can listen there. So there you go, radio station promoting, playing podcasts. So check them out if you've never. There's some good ones. One of them is Hollow 9 Network is going to start with their Game of Thrones. So if you're a Game of Thrones fan, go over there and catch the first episode of that series out of Hollow 9 Network, the Game of Thrones podcast.
I cannot wait. And I've actually been in talks with Dave. I want to get on that show so bad.
The Game of Thrones podcast?
Yeah, I am such a hardcore Game of Thrones nerd. I can't help it. It sucked me right in, and I couldn't.
Like 95% of the world.
Right. Well, see, I had resisted for so long. It was like in season 5 before I ever watched one single episode. And Ray Rideout actually is the one that got me to watch season 1, episode 1. And Ray Rideout, the guy is a podcaster also, of course, and he has done some amazing shows. And I think he's even getting ready to launch a new one coming up here.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So
reminds me of a dinosaur name.
Yeah, I wish I had it up in front of me right now. I don't. But yeah, it's something about, it's a technology one. So
yeah, it's like
Pterosaurus Tech or something like that.
Yeah, dinosaurs. Yeah. All I can think of.
This is really cool. I can't wait to see what he's got going on, because Ray is really responsible for helping me develop my my ability in podcasting and what I've done.
Yeah, that's what you've said. So
this guy has absolutely been nothing but an inspiration to me, and I can't wait to see what he comes out with next. But
so Dave's got some. He said he's got some Game of Thrones podcasts scheduled to record. Are you part of that?
No.
Or are you just bugging him?
I'm just bugging him. I am doing everything minus sending him a basket full of goodies. I have done. But I guarantee you at some point I will pull out the big guns and I will send him some snickerdoodles or something. Dave, reach out to me. Tell me what you like, man. I will send it to you. I promise.
There you go. I'll find out what he likes, and
there you go.
I'll let you know.
My spy, my inside girl, if you know what I mean.
What his favorite thing is.
My Natalia.
Spy. Huh. Yeah. So if you've never listened to a podcast, go check it out tomorrow. There'll be six new ones launching tomorrow. milehighradio.com. Go and check it out. And, there's music in between because it is a radio station. So check it out.
All right. So what else do we have? Oh, we pretty much burned up all of our time.
Gee, surprise, surprise. Hey, Evelyn. Mr. Questions podcast is a what? What'd you say?
It says, I think the Prime Minister Questions podcast is a British podcast in the UK. Not according to what I'm reading right here. It says Canada. So
maybe they have one over there too, Evelyn.
Yeah, it could be. It very well could be.
Huh. Yeah, holy cow, eh? We definitely yacked about that for a long time. Something that, my God, everything is a frickin' soapbox now, isn't it? So, good old Hugh Hefner died, and which we breaking news on our show Wednesday night about that.
Yeah, that was that was crazy. I did not see that coming at all, but it is what it is.
So now, we're seeing, all these things about Hugh Hefner. So now today I'm seeing all these really negative. As soon as there's anything, you got like the really positive articles, and then you get the bad articles. Why aren't people writing these freaking articles before? But so now I'm seeing, I think there was a Playboy writer, I don't know what else she did, and she was saying how he was very helpful in the, I can't remember what the term was, not freedom, but not sexual revolution either, but just and making, that whole thing, sex, not so taboo, and putting it out in a way that was classy and and not cheap and all of that. So now I'm seeing these articles today. I don't know if you saw any of them. Hey, Leland. I don't know if you saw any of the articles today, how Hugh Hefner was this terrible, terrible man, and how he demanded all these things. And it's just crazy how everything turns into a soapbox.
I didn't see any of that, actually. In fact, everything that I keep seeing is just like covers with him on it, like the early days where he was on some of the covers of his own magazine. I've seen a lot of those. Yeah, I guess I did see something like was Hugh Hefner bad for feminism, but I didn't really see any completely negative thing. I guess it'll come out, I'm sure, more and more as time goes on. What kind of was this, that, and the other? But yeah, the guy was 91 years old. So you cover the years of 91 years. Think about how much social acceptance and things have changed in those 91 years. When he was in his 20s, he might have been a dick. Who knows? When he was in his 30s, maybe it changed a little bit. In 40s, probably changed a whole lot, because I would have been around, the time when, people were changing their minds on how women were to be treated. But
yeah,
the way if you ever read any of his magazines, which I'm guilty, I've read them. I'm sorry. Ladies don't
read.
Yeah, I've actually read a few of them. No, here's why. I've actually read some of them, because there's only so many times you can look at the girls in the pictures, and over the years, the girls in the pictures got fewer and fewer, and to the point where towards the end, there really wasn't any women in pictures. It was mainly filled full of advertisements, articles written by ad companies, full copy. Like it looks like a story, but it's not. It's an advertisement. So the magazine really wasn't, anything other than like a GQ or something like that.
It changed a lot, I think, but yeah, but what a life though, eh? Like, what a life. Like, and then he dies peacefully in his sleep. He has this unbelievable life, lives in this mansion, parties, surrounded by what he loved, dies peacefully in his sleep. Like, freaking hell.
Yeah, that's like the American dream right there. I mean, created one of the biggest magazine
empires
and lived his full life. And like you said, exactly like you said, surrounded by what he loved, and just goes to bed one night, doesn't wake up. We can all wish for that.
Yeah, and leaves an unbelievable legacy. Like, I mean, holy cow. Amazing.
Now that's
amazing.
The other thing I think you'll start seeing come out is some of the myths, because everybody's heard stories about the Playboy Mansion, what happens, the kinds of parties that they have, this, that, and the other. But I think a movie's going to be coming out. I mean, they made a movie of Larry Flint. I mean, that was a good movie. People versus Larry Flint was one of my favorite movies of all time, but it didn't change. It didn't change my opinions of the guy whatsoever, even though in that movie they made him out to be just a sick son of a bitch.
Oh yeah, like total difference. He was nasty, but that was a fantastic movie. Like, holy crap! Yeah,
but I mean, think about your life use your life as perspective, as a grounding point. What you see in a movie, a 1 hour and 30-minute movie, a 90-minute movie, what you see in 90 minutes
isn't going to capture.
Can't even, that's like a grain of sand tossed on a beach.
Yeah.
So, I mean, keep that in mind. But I guarantee you we're going to have a Hefner movie coming out, and I'm sure somebody's already even put pen to paper and started writing it.
Oh, yeah. How many kids did he have? Because I saw this article too. Who's going to inherit his fortune? Well, wouldn't it be his kids? I know he has a son.
Yeah, I have no idea. I
Can you
guess
imagine being Hugh Hefner's son? I wonder what life was like. Like, holy shit.
well, he kept it quiet. I mean, he's kept his family pretty out of the public eye. I guess I didn't even realize he had a son. I
Yeah.
didn't know he had. Period.
Yeah, I knew he had a son. Yeah. Yeah, unbelievable. Unbelievable. But yeah, you're right. I think there will be a movie for sure. But yeah, I just thought, oh, now here come the articles about he did no favors and how he was such a misogynist and he did nothing for, and I don't know the guy, but I just think, oh my God, everything's a soapbox.
So you only read the newspaper for pictures. You read the article. That's
Oh, that's funny.
yeah.
That's funny. Anyway. Oh, hey, did you also see that other article? What is the matter with people? About somebody who got their eyeball tattooed.
I've been seeing that for years.
Have you? Oh, I just saw that
yeah.
and I'm like, what? What kind of person thinks that's a good idea? Like
4 years ago, I watched a guy in Sturgis getting a spade tattooed on his eyeball. It's just, I guess maybe it's the lifestyle that we both come from. I mean, I come from maybe that motorcycle culture and things, that and the other. I see things like that are just absolutely batshit crazy. But at the same time, I know you're not going to stick a needle anywhere near my eyeball. It's not going to happen.
Let alone repeatedly.
And there is probably about 20, 30 people standing around watching this guy get this tattoo done. And every one of them like,
yeah.
There's
like a guy watching and seeing another guy getting kicked in the nards. Like
right there. Why did you have to go there? Now we're gonna get done with the show, and I'll be like, "Oh my God, I can feel it." Oh, wow.
I don't know. I don't know how somebody could watch that. I don't even like watching anybody get hurt. Like how could you?
That don't bother me at all. I will sit there and watch fail videos all day long.
Oh, I cannot. I just can't. It hurts me inside. I can't watch fail videos.
Yeah, I'll watch ridiculousness all day long. Rob Dyrdek, man, when he hit ridiculousness, he knocked it out of the park with that one. That is just to watch someone that is absolutely dumb enough to do something. I know this is going to hurt. I'm going to do it anyway. I actually knew a guy. I met a guy live in person who had a viral video who was actually on television. They put it on some comedy channel show. Can't remember, some fail show. He held a crawdad. You know what a crawdad is, a crayfish crawdad.
Oh, never heard of that called that. I heard of crayfish.
Okay, so he held this mud bug up to his nipple and it pinched his nipple.
Oh, I've seen a video like that.
Dumbass. I actually met the guy. He was from Washington State. I will call that the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. I mean, I've seen other people do stupid things. I mean, hell, I've done stupid things. Never in a million years have I ever held a damn mud bug up to my nipple and said, "Here, go ahead, give it a push. Go ahead. It's okay."
Yeah, what's going on in the brain to think that is a good idea?
Yeah,
like,
I can't.
Just to see what it's like, I guess. I don't know. I don't
know
get it.
You know what a good idea is, though?
What?
Tuning in to Grit and Grace each and every week. We love coming out here and doing this. And the only way you're going to find out what's going on in these noodles is to be tuning in or listening. So why don't you tell them where they can find us?
You can find us everywhere if you go to our website at gritandgracetv.com. Every possible link making it easy for you to listen and watch is on our website. And you can ask questions, you can leave comments, and you can suggest topics. And we are going to be starting something brand new next week that's going to carry us for a little while. So you're going to want to tune in because this is going to be something that for 6 consecutive shows, except for Fridays, because Fridays are always going to be free for all, not free flow, free for all Fridays. Free for all flow, free flow for all. It's a free flow for all. Fridays are going to be like this. We're going to talk about whatever. We're going to answer any of your questions that we get. But Mondays and Wednesdays are going to be topics. And we've got something that's going to start next week. We are going to provide a download for it. It is a large questionnaire. And we're going to have that on our website for download, but that is going to be next week. So we're going to talk about the 6 human needs, and we have to do the test. So don't forget to do the test so you can find out what your top 2 needs are. So that helps us understand how we make decisions, how we go through our life, how we decide what our priorities are, and how we go about meeting those needs. So that is going to be like a serial type thing, like for a while, like we did at the very beginning when we did the grit test. And we shared that with everybody, and we took the test, and we went through each one of those things. So that's kind of fun, and that's what we're going to do starting next month, which next week is next month.
Yay. October, my favorite month of the year.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Why? Why?
Finish with Halloween. Your least favorite holiday.
I hate Halloween with a passion. I hate it so bad. I just don't like it. But eggnog came out today, and I'm really excited. So that's why I like October, because eggnog comes out. But it came out early.
You just want an excuse to sip on some warm brandy, don't you? That's all you care about. It's just the warm brandy,
spicy rum,
or spicy rum. That's all.
Spicy rum. Yeah. So there you go. You're gonna want to tune in next week for sure.
All right. Maybe next week we'll even find out what her favorite spiced rum is. So until then, thank you all for watching. Please keep coming back. We love y'all. Adios.
Bye. Eggnog does rule.